So I want to talk today on how to make an effective annotated bibliography. Now, when a lot of people think about annotated bibliographies, the first thing that pops to mind is that I'm going to create a document where I, have a citation. So let me just kind of bump this down. So a lot of people, when they think of an annotated bibliography, they think of putting a citation and then writing a short description about that citation, typically about a paragraph. Well, that's not very effective. I mean, think about this. The whole point of an annotated bibliography for a researcher is actually to kind of build a big background of literature that you can then cite for future things that you're writing about. Now think about this from a faculty member's perspective, because I've been working in the same area of research for about 10 years now. Now if I did that for every single paper that I read, I would probably have a 400-page document, if not more, that's just a giant list of paragraphs that's completely unwieldy. It's impossible to do anything with, and while it can be effective in small doses, it just becomes highly ineffective after a while. So I'm going to jump back and actually show you what I do with all of my students in my research lab. So I have them create effective annotated bibliographies. So rather than just listing out citations with a paragraph that we're never going to read through, I talk about organizing articles. So the way that I always tell my students that I would like them to start to organize these articles is to use headings, subheadings, and very short descriptions, because we only need about one sentence to kind of recall what we were reading about when we read that article. And if we really need to, we can pull that article back out and reread it when we need it. And so I always actually tell them to start, though, with the explanatory models or the theories that kind of guide all of the research in that area. It's nice just to start the document with those, give short descriptions of each of those models or of those theories. Make sure to have some citations in there so that you can go find those if you need it, because chances are you're probably going to be using those theories quite a bit. So it's great to start the document with those theories, hypotheses, things like that. And then we get into kind of the more empirical work. And I always just put those theories at the top. That way I have them. They're easy to access with short descriptions and citations. But then we need to organize. And to be honest, the appearance of this, it might not be exactly how you would set yours up. This was effective for me at the time that I created this annotated bibliography. I actually created this while working on my dissertation in graduate school. And with this annotated bibliography, I basically sat down and over winter break, I read probably 150 articles, maybe 200 articles on threat. And so intergroup relations threat, so interracial threat that people can experience, what contributes to it, what are the outcomes of this threat, and that's what we're seeing here in this annotated bibliography. But with this annotated bibliography, I'm telling you, I promise, I wrote most of the introduction of my dissertation in a week or two. The vast majority of it, because I had already done all of the reading at that point. I knew what was out there, I knew what had been done in the area, and I had this awesome document to remind myself everything that had been done. And I always tell my students ask me, how do I keep from accidentally plagiarizing? Well, the best way to keep from accidentally plagiarizing is by not ever having a document open that you're writing about. So if I'm writing about this article by Angela Bonds, I don't have that article open when I'm discussing it in my introduction. What I do is I learn about that article, I read that article, I understand that article, I take notes on that article, but then when I actually go to write my introduction, I don't have any articles open. At that point, I know what's out there, and I start writing off the top of my head, and then I use this document to go back in and plug in citations wherever I'm making a claim. So if I say that people experience threat when, they think that their position of power is vulnerable, well, shoot, I need to throw a citation at the end of that, or ideally multiple citations if they're out there. And so what I do is I actually organize these citations. I put them under headings. So I talk about threat being used as a justification of prejudice, and then I just list out the citations that kind of allow me to say those things. And then I can go review those citations as needed when I cite them, because I've already got them in here. I've already read these citations. Now you'll notice as I scroll through this document, there's a few kind of papers, and I need to update this document at this point. I've read a lot of these now, but there's a few that are actually highlighted. For me, that's a way to tell myself that I've found that article, that it's in my folder of articles, but I have not read the whole thing yet. So anything that is unhighlighted, I have read the whole thing. Anything that is highlighted, there are articles that I found that I just haven't gotten to yet. And I'll actually show you what my folder looks like here. So I've got this folder of all of these articles that I've read on this particular topic, and I do this with every topic of my research. I've got the annotated bibliography in there. The nice thing is that starts with an A, so it's always right next to the top. But then I also have a folder that's called Need to Read, and there are just as many articles in there. These are articles that I still need to go back and I need to read the whole article before I actually go forward and cite that particular article. And it's great that whenever you read an article, make sure you're highlighting, because the intros of articles are where you can find even more great articles to cite on that particular topic. And so we want to make sure that we immediately, as soon as we finish reading an article, we go and find all of those other articles that are going to be beneficial to us. That's what I do after reading every single article. So let's come back to the annotated bibliography here. So I'm organizing things. I'm also putting the full citation in APA format. That way when I actually go forward and cite it, bam, it's right there. All I have to do is copy over that citation, go glance at the article, make sure I'm saying stuff that's consistent with the article, and I should, because I've already read it at this point and I've organized it. So I just break this out. So what are some things that lead to threat? Well, when someone's position of power is vulnerable, leads to threat. Authoritarianism and social dominance orientation lead to threat. When people have disgust about different groups, it leads to threat. When people perceive that the outgroup is increasing or they have greater perceptions of diversity, leads to threat. And you can see a number of those I haven't read. That's one particular area I haven't spent too much time. I actually did spend quite a bit of time. Again, I need to update this on what I've read for a course that I just taught. I've actually read almost all of those articles now. But this document is just really great to get yourself acquainted with a particular area of research. And again, even if I haven't read these, I know where they go. I glance at the title, I glance at the abstract, I organize them, and then I let myself know, hey, you need to read this in the future. And again, now I've got an excellent document that I can now use to write an entire intro in a very short amount of time. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you have any questions, as always, please let me know. Make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe, and let us know if there's anything that we can do to make your research better.